Good day. Thank you for joining the St. Mark Moment. And I know that some of you still have questions about the coronavirus. And I know that some of you are still wondering when this is going to come to an end. I promise you that it will come to an end. We just don't know when. Today I thought I would give you some perspective because so often when we are encountering something like this, we are not certain whether anybody else has ever gone through it like this or not. And even if people tell you they've been through it, you figure they didn't go through it like you went through it or like we're going through it. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of perspective in the short time that we have. Now, you've already heard, and I'm going to go ahead and take my mask off now because it's just me in this facility. I kept it on beneath my chin to remind you that we need to wear these. We really do need to wear these. Well, there went the earring. Let me get it. Now, wearing the masks, it is estimated that if you wear your mask from now until when you're out in public and that sort of thing, that we can save at least 70,000 people from dying between now and December. Isn't that amazing? So that's something to remember. If you just wear your mask, we can maybe stop 70,000 more people from dying. That's reason enough to wear it. No, I can't think of any answer that you can give that makes up for that. Like, it's my right not to wear, or whatever you can think of to say, doesn't make up for the fact that if you just put it on, we can stop 70,000 people from dying, it's estimated. Because what they do is they make these models based on what we already have seen. They can project how many more people would die if we did this or if we did that. But let's talk a little bit about the pandemic in 1918. Now, I know you've heard that there was a pandemic, but there really was. And it's about 100 years now, fast forward, and we have this one. But about 100 years ago, a little bit over, there was a pandemic called, we call it the Spanish flu. But it was the pandemic of 1918. And when you go take a snapshot of the pandemic of 1918, let's go to the month of October of 1918. America was active in World War I at that time. So just imagine, we have a major world war going on, World War I. The cities were gripped in fear. Theaters, churches, gatherings, parties, all were canceled, just like we're doing now. But in that 1 month, listen to this closely now. In that 1 month, you know how many people died in this country, just in America? 195,000 people died in that month, making that the deadliest month in American history. The deadliest month in American history. 195,000 people. Now, this pandemic lasted for 15 months. 15 months. And 500 million people were sick worldwide, and it killed between 3 and 5% of the entire population of the world. Now, the first wave of it that came through, people were just kind of getting used to, we've got this thing happening. And it all is thought to have happened with one soldier that got sick in this country. And of course, it spread, and then the soldiers went to Europe, and then it spread all over Europe, and it just spread everywhere. So before we start talking about the China virus and start, I'm not saying we, but the powers that be blaming China and all of that, we had one that probably started from here and spread over the world. It spread just that quickly, and at first, it wasn't thought to be that much. just like now. It took them a while to wake up to it. And at first, it was kind of known as the 3-day fever. People would get sick, and then many times they might recover. But that second wave of it was more deadly. In that second wave, people might get sick that morning and be dead by that night. They would start turning, for the lighter people, and particularly the whites, they would start to turn dark, 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 dark. One physician wrote in his notes that they began to look like the Negroes, as he said. So it was really deadly. And remember, they didn't have any antibiotics. Now, the antibiotics don't really treat the virus, but it treats those little side infections that you get that make you sick when you get the virus. So we do have that. But they didn't have that. They didn't have many of the things that we have now to help. Now, we don't have a cure for it, but we do have some drugs that are coming into play now that seem to shorten the illness time and help recovery. They didn't have that. So what they did have was isolation, quarantine, good personal hygiene, disinfectants, and discouraging public gatherings. They had that to deal with. They had those in their arsenal to fight the virus. And those are basically the things we have. In fact, we're almost equal because, yes, we do have antibiotics for the side infections, and that's very helpful, but we really don't have a drug that just takes away the coronavirus itself. So we're kind of equal in that way. But we do have an antiviral that seems to shorten the course of the illness, okay? So we don't have something that we can give you and we know it'll just take care of it. We don't have that yet. The closest we'll have to that is a vaccine. And it's going to be probably the end of the year versus the first of 2021 before we get a vaccine here to deal with this. So until that time, there's some things we need to do, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But let's go back to the pandemic of 1918. As I said, at first it wasn't thought to be too bad, but then the second wave came. And in a single day in Philadelphia, they had 759 deaths in one day in Philadelphia during that time. Death spread quickly. There were mass graves. Okay? Now, what did they think that came from? They think that came from a bird. A bird. Now, usually what happens with these pandemics, some animal gets it. I mean, in the last 2 times, let's put it that way. What we think has happened is an animal got it. The animal gave it to another animal, which is the intermediate host. And then maybe we either ate that intermediate host and got it, or somehow it jumped from that intermediate host to humans. And once it jumped to humans, then it became human to human spread. You understand? So in 1918, that animal was a bird. We don't know what the intermediate host was. Some people think it was pigs because this started out in the Midwest and there were pigs out there too. And people were known to have sometimes gotten things from pigs. So we kind of think it might have been pigs. At any rate, it got to us. So let's fast forward now to the pandemic of 2020. We think that this started out in bats. Bats, those, we talk vampire stories from bats and all of that. But we think it started in bats. And we think that the bats gave it to another animal, and perhaps we ate the other animal, because they have those what they call wet markets in China. And they do eat some of the kind of exotic animals, some of the animals that, we're not familiar with. But they think that there was an intermediate host, and it's possible that somehow, either through eating the host or some connection with that host, we got it, humans, and then it became human to human spread. Okay? And what's interesting? I was looking up something the other day, and I'm not saying anybody ate the bats. That's possible too. But bats are on that list of unclean animals, so you really not shouldn't eat them. But if you're abiding by that particular set of rules in the Old Testament, but it is on that list of unclean animals. And yeah, I know we're in the New Testament now. I'm not going to get into that, but it is on that list. So then we got it through that intermediate host, and now there's person-to-person spread. So what can we do to make a difference? Remember, I told you that if you wear your mask, you can help prevent 70,000 people from dying between now and December. That's a lot. That's somebody's grandmother, grandfather. So wear your mask. And if somebody tells you, you go somewhere and you forget it, or you have it pulled down under your chin or under your nose, and somebody says, hey, pull your mask up. Hey, put your mask on. Don't turn around and say something to them. I know you wouldn't do that anyway. But look what we're seeing. People are getting upset. I saw on television the other day, someone actually pushed an elderly lady down. She broke her leg simply because she asked them to put on their mask. She asked them to put on their mask, and they got so upset, they pushed her. That ought not to be. So I know you're not doing that, so I'm not even going to worry about that because you don't do that. I know you don't do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's do what we said. Let's wear our mask in public. Now, if you're out cutting your grass, nobody else is around you, you don't have to wear it. You're not around anybody. You don't need to worry about it just floating in the outdoor air and you're out there by yourself. But when you're around people, if you're going for a walk and you're the only one going there, nobody's with you, you don't. But if you're going to be around people, put your mask on, okay? A lot of people are a little bit confused about that. Now, splash guards are not masks, okay? I see some people with splash guards on. Those are nice, but you need your mask on, okay? Wash your hands. Wash your hands. And when I buy groceries and I bring them home, I wipe them down with disinfectant. I just wipe the packaging down before I put it up. That's just what I do. But wash your hands, okay? Often during the day because you're touching things. And then keep your distance. So somebody comes up to you and they want to come up to you and hug you, just put your hand out like that. You go to a funeral, make sure people don't come up and hug you. Funerals are dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. They're dangerous. But I don't say don't go. But you have to be extra careful because you're mourning, and people think that because they're mourning, they have a license to disregard the rules. But I'm sure the funeral you're going to, if that person could come back, they would not want you to risk your life, okay, in that manner. So if you're going to go, still observe distancing, still wear your mask, and make others observe it when they come to you. Just put your hand out and they'll get it. Okay? All right. We're out of time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Dr. Alma Jenkins. I didn't even welcome you on behalf of St. Mark and our pastor, Bishop Alton A. Smith, but we all thank you. Have a great week.